Welcome back to the Confessional booth. This is a safe space where we can talk about the things that people don't usually say out loud, especially when it comes to sex, relationships, taboo, and shame. And today, I would like to rewind a little bit and talk about something that people often think they understand, but when you really start to feel into it, it changes how you relate to yourself completely. And that is the difference between shame and guilt. Now, on the surface, they can sound almost interchangeable, right? Like, I feel bad, I did something wrong, I shouldn't have done that. But internally, physiologically, these are two very different experiences. Guilt is, I did something that I don't feel good about. It doesn't feel aligned. I did something that I feel was wrong. Shame is, there is something wrong with me. I am bad. And that might sound like a small shift in language, but in the body, it is not small at all. Because when you feel guilt, let's say you snapped at your partner, or you said something you didn't mean, or maybe you avoided a conversation you know you needed to have. There's often a sensation of activation. There's a kind of forward-moving energy. You might feel a bit of tightness in your chest. You might feel some heat in your face. Maybe your mind starts replaying the situation. But there's always a pull toward repair. So at first you may think, shit, this was not the best timing to say this, or why did I get so defensive in my reaction? Or I wish this conversation never happened. I wish I could go back and try this convo again. You want to clean it up. You want to say something to go in the direction of repair. You want to restore connection. That's guilt functioning in a healthy way. It's actually relational. It keeps you in connection with yourself and with other people. Now, shame feels very different. Shame is much more of a collapse response in the nervous system. So instead of that forward movement, what you often feel is a kind of dropping, like your energy sinks, and like a stuckness, like a holding pattern. Your chest caves slightly. Your shoulders round forward. Your breath becomes shallow. Sometimes you even hold your breath without realizing. Eye contact becomes harder. And instead of thinking, I want to fix this, the internal dialogue, your inner voice, or what I call your inner critic, becomes something like, of course I did that. This is why relationships don't work for me. There's something wrong with me. I'm broken. I can never get it right. I'm so fucked up. Why would anyone want to be with me? And in that moment, your nervous system is not organizing for connection. It's organizing for protection. Because shame carries this very deep, often unconscious belief. This voice of shame says, if I am fully seen, I will be rejected. And from a biological standpoint, that matters. Because belonging, being part of a group, being accepted, being connected is tied to survival in the body. We are hardwired for this. We are animals. We are social animals. Belonging means survival and protection and safety. So when shame gets activated, your system isn't being dramatic. It's actually responding as if something about your safety is at risk. At the reptilian level of our brain, the amygdala complex, along with the limbic brain, reacts as if our life is at stake. And that's why people don't speak. That's why people hide parts of themselves in relationships. That's why people perform sexually instead of actually feeling in their body and experiencing. Because shame says, don't let them see this part. They might not like it. They might reject me. They might judge me. So now let me give you a more grounded example of how this plays out. Let's say you're in an intimate moment with someone and your body does not respond the way you expected it to. Maybe you don't feel aroused. Maybe you lose an erection. Maybe you can't relax enough to receive pleasure. Guilt would sound like, something's off for me tonight. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I need more connection. Maybe I need to slow this down. Can we take a break and reset? There's curiosity there. There's space. Notice that. Shame, on the other hand, sounds like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why can't I control my body? I should be able to do this. I'm broken. And the brain can even go into catastrophic thinking because of the limbic system response. This is the beginning of the end. There's no hope. I'm doomed. And as soon as that thought lands, the body responds. Because now the nervous system shifts further into protection. Blood flow changes, muscle tension increases, breath becomes even more restricted. So the very thing you're worried about often intensifies, not because your body is failing you, but because it's trying to protect you from exposure. This is why understanding the difference between shame and guilt is not just psychological, it's physiological. It directly impacts how your body functions in real time. Now, here's another layer to this. Most shame isn't actually yours. It was learned. It was conditioned. It was picked up somewhere along the way, usually early in life, very early in life, and often repeatedly through messaging like, don't do that. That's inappropriate. Good girls don't fill in the blank. Real men should fill in the blank. And especially when it comes to sex and desire, there are so many conflicting rules that get internalized that it becomes almost impossible to exist without feeling like you're getting it wrong in some way. Too much, too little, too open, too closed, too performative. So instead of relating to your body directly, you start relating to the idea of how you should be. And that's where shame takes root, because you're no longer in your experience. You are in evaluation. We could call it compare and despair, like my coach calls it. Now, the work here is not to eliminate guilt. Why? Because guilt can actually be very useful. It helps you stay in integrity. It helps you recognize impact. It helps you grow. But the work is to start noticing when guilt crosses over into shame. When it stops being about something you did and starts becoming about who you believe you are. And one of the simplest ways to begin working with this is to change the relationship to your own internal language. So instead of, I'm bad at relationships, you might start with, something about that interaction didn't feel good. And even that shift, while it might feel subtle, will really help to keep your nervous system more regulated. It keeps you in a place where change is actually possible. Because you're not attacking yourself, you're staying with yourself, and you are staying open to the possibility of change. The possibility even of evaluation. My coach calls it what went well and even better if. And you stay open to the possibility of repair and searching for creative and alternate solutions. And ultimately, this is where confession becomes powerful. Because shame thrives in secrecy, it needs you to believe you're the only one. It needs silence. But the moment you start to speak something, whether that's to a partner, a coach, a friend, a therapist, or even just out loud to yourself, you interrupt that pattern and your body feels it. There's often some kind of release. Sometimes it's a breath. Sometimes it's emotion. Sometimes it's just a small softening. But something shifts because you're no longer carrying it alone. So as you move through your week, I want you to start noticing this in real time. When something comes up, pause and ask yourself, is this guilt or is this shame? Am I responding to something I did, or am I making this mean something about who I am? And then just notice what happens in your body when you shift that. Because awareness is the beginning, but embodiment is what actually starts to create change. This is the Confessional Booth, where what's been hidden can find a voice. Thanks for being here.